Welcome! Welcome to the Coming Home to You Sparkcast, a sanctuary for soul-led women, mamas, cycle breakers, and visionaries just like you who are ready to rise, not by becoming more, but by remembering and embodying who they already are. This is a space where we explore what it means to come home to ourselves, beyond the roles, the noise, and the expectations, and into the body, the breath, and the truth of lived experience. Welcome home, sisters. If you've ever felt held by this Sparkcast, if these conversations helped you remember that you're not broken, if hearing other women's stories reminded you that healing isn't linear, perfect, or even a one and done, then this is a season, is an invitation for you to deepen that remembering inside your own body. This space hasn't changed because something was wrong. It changed because something integrated. So take a deep breath with me and let yourself arrive in this moment. You know, January carries a particular energy, not the pressure to execute, but the invitation to orient, to look honestly at where you are, to notice what wants to begin again, gently, truthfully, without force. For me, January has never been about hustle or reinvention through willpower. It's about listening, creating enough space to hear what's actually asking to be born. Season isn't about setting goals that you're eventually going to abandon by January 18th is what I hear. Resolutions end January 18th. So not even by February, you're already back to square one. It's really about setting intentions that you can live inside of. Intentions that feel sustainable in your nervous system. Not just exciting, in your head moments. So before we talk about goals, before we even talk about change, before we talk about what's next, I want to ask you something super simple. What do you want to embody this year? Not achieve, not hustle, but live, breathe, and move from. Let that settle in for a minute. What do you want to embody this year? I want to share something that I didn't expect when I started this Sparkcast. Those weekly conversations didn't just inspire me. They held me. They lifted me. And they definitely changed me. Each week, really just being in proximity with these women who are doing the work imperfectly, devotionally, most importantly, honestly, just really reminded me that healing isn't a finish line. It truly is a practice. Hearing the same through lines again and again and again and again and again, the fear and the doubt and the grief and the courage to choose yourself, that really helped me. That helped me move past the fear, move past the comparison. And those truths moved out of my head and back and into my body. So I began to embody the healing that I intellectually knew. And I realized something also that was important. That who you surround yourself really, really matters. Who you listen to matters. And who you let influence your nervous system, that matters. Embodied leadership doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't. But it can happen through osmosis. That's why it's important. There is an old adage that I grew up hearing. Tell me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are. Show me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. It's true. That's why community matters. That's why we don't heal alone. And that's why awareness is the thing that comes first. So we don't become the blind leading the blind. And eventually something shifted in me listening to these Sparkcast episodes and going through this journey all year. I realized that I realized what had been integrating inside of me through listening, through resonance and repetition was now asking to be lived through my body. Yeah, for me, embodiment lives in movement. I mean, before I even had a word for it, I used movement as medicine. It's in my breath, it's in sound, and it's in stillness. Through practices that bring me back into myself, like movement as medicine and qigong, yoga, breath work, energy medicine, energy awareness, even. Did you know there's such thing as energy hygiene? Visualization, meditations, mantras, all of these are tools that I have been weaving in slowly and integrating into my daily life. And in this season is no different. And this is not something to master, but it is a way that I have come home to myself through movement, through my breath. You know how many times, especially towards the end of the year, I heard the power of the pause. And that is what stillness means. Taking the time to just pause. There's so much chaos. There's so much noise. There's so many roles that we're trying to juggle and so many masks that we wear. And oftentimes the person and the thing that gets lost is ourselves in that whole process. And so it's so important to really pause and be in the stillness because nothing else matters if you are not living in the core of who you truly are. So, movement as medicine, music, singing, dancing, these are all things that as a child I innately did. And I didn't realize that these are things that were regulating my nervous system. There are things that you already do subconsciously, unconsciously, maybe intentionally, that you know will really help you ground yourself and be in the moment. One of the easiest, most reliable way, if you really feel like meditation is not easy. By the way, there's so many different forms of meditation. If the one that you tried didn't work, I urge you to try different ones. If you tried a breath work and you didn't like it, it didn't resonate with you, there are so many different kinds of breath works, and I promise you there is one out there that is really going to support you in your journey. So I invite you to try again until those shoe fits. Okay? Be Cinderella this year. A Cinderella of your embodiment of your healing. And one of the things that I recently did was I put my journey of healing and transformation into words and into song. And as I've been listening to these songs almost daily, that has also allowed me to integrate the healing, embody the very thing that I have been chasing for a long time. And one of the things I realized too was I was doing healing alone. I thought because I'm very introspective and I could usually ask myself, where, why do I do this thing that I do all the time? And I could pinpoint it to something in my past that in that moment I made it mean something and I attached a story to it and I kept replaying that story subconsciously, unconsciously, intentionally, however, right? But I was repeating the pattern over and over again and felt broken. I was like, what are all these other people doing that they're getting right in their healing? That I am just, I mean, I must be broken. Healing is for everybody but me. And I carried that for years and years and years. And it wasn't until I finally chose to be in a community of like-minded people and men and women who were on the path for healing. And it was it was interesting because the program I signed up for was leadership, about stepping into your leadership. But coincidentally, I had to let go of the old beliefs, the old story, that old victim coat that I used to, that cloak of victimhood that I wore so proudly. And it wasn't until that I got people, coaches, and mentors who were lovingly interrupting my story to call me forward. They were not enrolled in my smallness. And it was hard to hear. And some people quit because they were so enrolled in their limiting story and weren't ready to show their light, or maybe it was just not their time. But for me, I took it on and it was hard and I still felt broken. I was like, all my cohort, the people in my cohort, all of them are having amazing, beautiful breakthroughs. And I'm sitting here having a lot of aha moments, but then would come back to the real world and it just felt like everything kept crashing down all over again, like repeating the pattern all over again. I was like, why am I the one who feels broken? And in that moment, because of the Sparkcast, I realized that subconsciously, unconsciously, or intentionally, I was comparing myself. I was comparing my journey. I was comparing how I needed to show up in the world. And that was stopping me from actually being still and listening to myself and honoring myself where I needed to be. And I didn't meet myself where I was. And when I stopped and I held myself exactly where I was and I honored her where she was and thanked her for the lesson and then asked, I ask all the time, like when I feel pain or during the day, in the beginning of my day, I start off by asking myself, what do you want to create today? And it's those actions alone that help me move forward, which is why January, the resolutions are so important. But if you're not doing it from an embodied state, or it doesn't light you up, or it doesn't have a grounding, anchored vision, then of course January 18th is when you throw away your resolutions. If you don't have a community supporting you and holding you accountable, of course those resolutions are going to go out the window. Of course. You you stop doing life alone. If you're going to hear anything from today's Sparkcast, stop doing life alone. When I stopped doing life alone, I transformed and broke through in such a short time compared to when I was doing it alone. You get to do this with your tribe of people. It takes a village, not just to raise children, but it takes a village to come together and shift the world. And, thinking that I was broken was the first step in my self-sabotage model. We all have a self-sabotaging model. Which one's yours? Which one is your go-to self-sabotage? Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's another thing I learned in the Sparkcast. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And without a vision, people perish. So what is your vision for 2026? What are you ready to embody this year? And do you have a vision? Do you have a community to hold you accountable? Do you have it set up quarterly so you know, like month to month, whether or not you hit your target? What's working for you? What's not working for you? Did you even reflect back on 2025 to find out what worked and what didn't work? Did you have a vision for 2025? And it's okay if something didn't work. It's a learning curve. You just figured out what didn't work. And for me, when I started writing these songs, it really was a moment where I started seeing so many synchronicities. I started seeing even numerology playing a factor in everything. And you might not believe in numerology or have heard of it before, but numbers play a big, huge role. The energy of the numbers play a huge role in our lives. And this year carries a powerful initiation energy. So in numerology, if you add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10. And if you add 1 plus 0, it equals 1. So it's a 1 year. Last year we had a 9 year, which is endings. This year is about beginnings, leadership, and self-authority. This year asks us, what are you ready to claim? What are you done waiting? Or where are you done waiting? What are you no longer willing to abandon? For me, that was me. I was no longer willing to abandon myself. And when I made that choice, that literal, physical, emotional choice to stop abandoning myself and choosing myself, so much shifted in my life, so much shifted in my relationships. Some of them don't even feel like this the shift that you want, but it's the shift that needed to happen because you chose yourself. And there's power in that. And then you layer on top of that that we're on a fire horse energy this year. It's not just the horse here, it's the fire horse. I don't know if you know, but in Chinese mythology, there is elemental for every animal. So I think it was the wood snake last year, and this year it's a fire horse. And so those energetically carry different than a wood horse or a water horse would. And the fire horse energy is about courage, about movement, visibility. And this year really calls for truth in action. But fire without grounding, fire without borders, boundaries, will burn out quickly. That's why this season is about embodied leadership. Not speed, not hustle, about embodied leadership. And this year also for me marks a very special personal threshold. I'm stepping into my 50th year, believe it or not as age, but as embodied sovereign authority. Not dominance, not control, but authority that comes from having lived, having experienced, from having broken, from having stayed, from having chosen myself when it mattered. That's why this Sparkcast is evolving, because I'm evolving. And I trust that many of you are as well. So if season one supported your awakening, then I welcome you to the embodied step of your journey. Not just knowing your power, but truly living it. And before we move any further, I want to invite you into integration. Think of what you want to embody this year. Think of what worked for you last year and what didn't work for you last year. Just let that sit in your heart. Have it be neutral, no judging. Judgments are the precursor. I mean, they're dream stealers, judgments. They're dream stealers. So don't rob from your own dreams by placing judgment on them. Just be curious, be neutral, and just sit like what worked and what didn't work. Think of yourself as an outside person, having an outside perspective of your life. Like you were an observer. And observe what areas in your life are you proud of? What did you accomplish this year? What are you most proud of? Even in your failure, there are things that you can land that are proud moments, teaching moments. You learned something about yourself. You gained resiliency because you didn't die. But did you die? Right? That's what my friend always says when she puts herself out there in a huge stress doing something that she's uncomfortable doing. At the end, she always reminds herself, but did you die? And that's a great way to think about it. One thing that she did too that I thought was beautiful because we I don't know about you, but for me, rejection is hard. Like I want to be liked and loved and accepted by everybody. And so putting myself out there as a coach, as a leader, as somebody who has an opinion or an idea, it's hard to speak up because we're afraid of rejection. But my friend, and you know who you are, my joy captain, she put herself on this beautiful challenge. She got herself a bingo card and it was her rejection card. And her game, she made a game with herself. Like she was going to fill up that bingo card with rejections. And by the time she even got a third of the way, she had a different relationship with rejection than she did when she started. And because of that, now she is super brave and is not afraid of the no. And so she puts herself out there in ways that she never would have before. So if you're going to do anything this year, play some bingo with yourself and just be okay with rejection because when you're okay with rejection and know that it doesn't mean anything about you, then you are a force to be reckoned with. You are unstoppable. And it reminds me of the song Unstoppable. Is that what it's called? By Sia. Anyhow, I love a lot of Sia's songs and I resonate with them so much. And I've used music, especially during the lockdown, I used music as my way of healing, staying grounded, not spiraling, allowing myself to move grief, to process fear, um, because music moves me. I like to say that I love to dance, but like music literally moves me. I have no control sometimes when I hear music. I embody the sounds and the rhythm and the melody. And that's why creating these songs of my journey, of my transformation, has really supported me. And when I started sharing it with my Coming Home to You sisterhood, they were mentioning how they were having breakthroughs, how it was supporting them in their journey of healing, that these songs had more than just nice melody. Like they had empowering light codes, and that's how I wrote them, that allowed for them to have a moment where they came home to themselves, where they accepted themselves, where they felt so much love and cared for themselves in that moment listening to my songs. And I was just like, am I thinking too small? Like I really just did them for me to have embodied movement. And then I just realized, wow, maybe these songs are meant to be shared in the collective because if it could help me and my group of sisterhood, then I believe that it can support you. And so with that, I want to introduce a song today that I wrote and co-produced. And it's a song that embodies everything that we've been talking about. And it's called She Was Never Broken because you're not broken. And it's something that I've said over and over and over and over in my Sparkcast. You are becoming. You were never broken. And you're not behind even. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And if we could just honor our own path, we could really stand in it and move forward. And this song was really born from a simple truth that so many of us were taught to fix ourselves. We were told, you're too much, you're not enough, you're too loud, you're broken, shut up, don't speak your truth. That truth no one wants to hear. I mean, how many of us out there feel broken? I mean, we feel like was it the term oxymoron? Where it's like two words that put together that are opposite, like uh what was one that comes to mind that I remember seeing on a list was Microsoft Works, but that is I'm aging myself now because um anyhow, but yeah, oxymorons are two opposites, and we say them in a sentence. It's like how does that make sense? So we're not broken, and not there's nothing that needs to be fixed, and there was nothing ever wrong with you. And I want you to listen very gently to this music. I don't want you to dissect it. I don't want you to judge it. I just want you to sit with it and allow it to embody your system. Your nervous system is going to remember before your mind does. Your body is going to open up before you can intellectually understand what is happening. So listen with an open mind, without judgment, without needing to fix anything or without criticizing. Just be. So I want to invite you into a gentle movement practice as you listen. Okay, whether you're standing, seating, lying down, or simply just moving yourself internally, whatever feels body right for your body, just allow that. Maybe it's just a gentle sway. Maybe you feel like humming, because the vibrations of your vocal cords are really healing. Your voice is the most powerful healing instrument you have that you own. So it's time to use it, and it calms your vagus nerve. So more on that later. You don't need to know, just trust, okay? So I want you to just allow yourself to sway side to side, soften your spine, maybe even let your arms move intuitively if they're called to. Whatever your body feels like doing, whatever movement, maybe it wants to take a deep breath. Maybe you want to hold yourself. This also calms your nervous system. Okay, maybe you want to put your hands on your lap and feel your body. That's a great grounding practice. When you get present, when you can touch yourself, you get present and you become aware of the now moment. And that's where I want you to be as you listen. So place your hand on your heart and your womb if it feels right. I want you to breathe naturally. You remember, you don't need to do it perfectly. It's not about choreography here, right? It's not about looking a certain way. It's just really about listening to your body, because this is a remembering. It's not about proving, and it's not about fixing. You ready? Here we go.
You are light, you are fire. She wakes up in silence, heart heavy and worn, carrying lifetimes of battles not sworn. They call her too much, they call her too soft, but she's been the mountain holding them aloft. You're not broken, never were. You just forgot the light you were. Let it rise, let it breathe. This is the moment you set yourself free. You are the fire, you are the flame. Not their shadows, not their shame. You are a yes for your soul, for your name. This is your time to rise in your own flame. You gave and you bled for a love not returned. They didn't see the lessons you learned. but you are not here to be lost in their game. You are stardust, wild, wholly untamed. Not broken, not small, just
Just
remembering
remembering you
you
hold
hold
it
it
all.
all. Every fall was a seed, now it
This
blooms in what
is
you
and what you
believe. You
believe.
are the fire, you are the flame, not their silence, not their blame. You are breeze for your heart, for your name, from your peace and dance in your own flame.
I love that. Dance in your own flame.
They judge because they can't rise yet. You're rising anyway, don't you forget. You're not too much, you're the mirror they fear. But sister, your truth is finally here. You are the fire,
All right.
not their stories, not their flame.
I think one of the important things to hear was that you're not broken. Never were. And they judge because they're not ready to rise yet. So people who are judging you, people who are saying it's your fault, it's your problem, most of the times, one of the things I noticed and realized in the Sparkcast too was that it's not about me. Most of the times, it was never about me. It was about their perspective lens that they wear. We all wear. We all wear perspective lens based on our beliefs, based on our upbringing, based on our experiences, based on everything that we think is right or wrong. And so when people want to throw shade your way, I want the most important 3 words, okay, maybe four, if 4 words that I want you to take into 2026. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. I used to say those, I still do actually, say those words when, chaos or an argument or I said something and didn't land the way I was intending it to, and the person gets upset or places blame or shame on me. I would walk away, and even in the moment of hearing them saying these things to me, I would say to myself, this is not about me. This is not about me because I know my intention. And the what I could do in that moment is not take it personally, not allow it to spiral me, because I did that so well. I was a perfect spiraler. It's an expert spiraler. Is that such a thing? And I would just get so on myself, and I held on to so much shame that it actually manifested itself as hip pain. And I wasn't willing to forgive myself. I wasn't willing to forgive other people that made me feel this way. Yeah, you made me feel this, but the truth is, I took that responsibility on by myself. And these are all the things that I've learned by speaking to others and hearing their stories. And if you haven't listened to the Sparkcast before and this is your first time, I invite you to listen to 3 or 4. I would like for you to listen to all 47 of them because each one you'll find yourself in. These women's journey are different, but they're the same in so many ways, and how they chose themselves and how they perceived life. And the one thing that changed that was different is that they started seeing life neutrally, their experiences as neutral. They were getting curious as to why certain things were happening instead of spiraling into the abyss of I'm broken, I'm wrong, I'm bad, because you're not. And that's the most important thing that I want to leave you with here today. Is you're not broken, you're not behind. And I want you to take a moment right now after that song to just notice what shifted. Did anything shift within you, even in this conversation? It might have been subtle. Maybe you found yourself taking a deeper, longer breath. Maybe you found yourself smiling when you were upset. Maybe you found yourself being present and just being here instead of worrying about all the things that happened yesterday, last year, or that are going to happen, a month from now. So, one of the practices that has grounded me again and again during this process as well is choosing a word or a power phrase for the year. And as we start the new year, this power word and this power phrase, and of course, the community that is going to hold you accountable, are what help me throughout the year stay grounded in my vision and in my intention for the year. And this word and power phrase is to be used not as a rule, but as a compass. As a compass for when you lost yourself, maybe emotionally something happened. Sometimes the full moon can even affect us emotionally. So, it's important to remember those times are not about you. And sometimes thoughts that we have that creep in, the negative thoughts, they're not even our own thoughts. So I invite you to get curious. And when you hear a negative thought, stop for a second, ask it, is this even my thought? And the first thing that pops in is your truth, is your higher intelligence speaking to you and telling you. So something that your body can, using these words, find something. Choose a word, choose a power phrase, something that in your body that you can return to when things get loud, something that you can use as a compass. For some of us, the word might even be sovereignty. That's a big word going around these days. For others, maybe the word is truth, devotion, freedom, joy. My word last year was joy. Yeah. Maybe the word for you is rooted, alive. There's no right or wrong word. Only the word that feels right and honest in your body. So take a moment here and just choose a power word for yourself for this year. What is your power word going to be? For me, it's intention. Because intention is 100% of everything. We don't realize that everything we do, we have an intention behind it. Sometimes you're aware of the intention, and sometimes the intention is not fully obvious, but there is an intention behind it. So when things don't go your way, I invite you to get curious, like, what was my intention? What was my true intention? Was my true intention to create this or to create the thing that happened? Because then you'll start to see that it's usually always whatever your intention was. Sometimes the intention is not intentional. So that's why the word for me this year is intention, so that I can be intentional about what I put my mind to and what I want to create. And this year really carries a powerful initiation energy. Remember, it's the 1 year energy, the year of beginnings, of leadership, of self-authority. So now is your year. If you've been waiting and pausing and waiting and hoping for a message or a sign, this is it. This is it. This is your year. My power phrase is I only move in alignment with what I am here to build. I only move in alignment with what I am here to build. And that becomes my mantra. That becomes how I set up my vision. When I choose something, whether it's even going out with a friend, is this in alignment with what I want to build? And I pause and I ask myself, is this in alignment with what I want to build this year? Yes, I want to build community. Awesome. I will say yes to going out with my girlfriend. So ask yourself these. Choose the word, choose the power phrase that's really going to support your vision for this year. Okay? So, um, yeah, I just want to leave you with that. Remember that you're not broken. You're becoming. You never were broken. This year is going to look different. I'm still evolving as the Sparkcast is evolving with me. So we're going to have 3 solo episodes with me. And then the last episode of the month will be the Trinity of Truth with two other guest speakers. And we are going to anchor in and ground that month's theme. So this month for us is vision and intention. So do you have a vision? And the first week is we talk about your mindset. And the second week is all about embodiment, how to bring it into your body, movement practices. And then the third week will be on your soul. So how to nurture yourself, how to have self-care boundaries, community, all of that. And then the fourth week will be about community and the importance uh, of being with like-minded, because like I said earlier, leadership does not happen overnight, but it can happen by osmosis, like it happened for me. And I was sitting there reflecting at the end of the year about, what guest speakers that I wanted to invite back to the show and how I would change the series so it wouldn't be redundant because I felt like it was the same story over and over again. And then what I realized, the reason why it wasn't resonating was because I had shifted. I have evolved. And I'm hoping that the Sparkcat does the same for you. If you listen and if you're doing the work devotionally, it's a ritual. And you deserve the life that you dream of, the life that you know is in your heart. Because if you're like me, there's a calling that since you were a child, you knew that you were meant for more, that you were meant for something bigger than you. And that is happening now. This is your year. Don't let another year go by that you feel broken, because that's a lie that I'm not willing to let you live with anymore. And if this conversation sparked just something within you, if you saw yourself in this story or in one of the Sparkcasts that you've seen before, I urge you to share it with your sister, share it with your mom, share it with your daughter, share it with your colleague who is struggling, feeling broken, feeling alone. And as a reminder that healing is available for her too. As a reminder that she is perfectly imperfect, just like me, just like you. And that her journey, she gets to honor it because she's on her path. You're on your path. I'm on my path. But together, we can run this path faster. So if you haven't already done so, I ask that you subscribe to this channel so that this content can reach more women just like you who are ready to rise in their light. Until next time, sisters, I am your host, Margarita Rose. Remember, keep rising, keep coming home, keep shining because you matter. You are enough exactly as you are. You're not late. You're not behind. You're right on time. And remember, coming home to you is not a destination. It's truly a devotion. I'll see you next week, same time, same Spark channel.